Everyone up, everyone in. Time for the fun to begin. Come along with me, Lookout Bear, on a brand new adventure. Hello, everyone. Michael B. Moynihan here, Zoobilee Zoo's resident adventurer, Lookout Bear. I, along with my friends Paul.
Hello, Zoobaroos.
And Billy.
Welcome to the show.
Have teamed up to bring you an informative and entertaining deep dive into the loving world of Zoobilee Zoo, one episode at a time. So please, buckle up and join us for...
When you're in Zoobilee,
Zoobilee Zoo, Zoobilee Zoo. Magic and wonder are waiting for you. So come on with us now and discover the wonder of you. Welcome to Zoobilee Zoo.
That's right. You can listen to the brand new Zoobilee Zoo podcast, dropping the 1st and the 15th of every month, wherever you get your podcasts, or at electronicmediacollective.com/ZoobileeZooPod.
Hey everybody, this is Bob Elmore. I was Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw Part 2, and you're listening to Moose's Monster Mash.
You're listening to Moose's Monster Mash.
Picture cool, crisp mornings, the fog's rolling in. Brisk evenings, sitting around a campfire with your friends, having a drink. The smell of pumpkin fills the air. That's right, folks. The spooky season is upon us, and this is a brand new episode of Moose's Monster Mash, and I am your host, Moose. And this month, we're going to do things a little differently. I'm going to offer my top 10 movie recommendations for what I have to watch to get into the mood for the spooky season. Now, when I say I have to watch them, these are just 10 of the movies that every year, regardless, as soon as September hits, I know October is right around the corner and here comes Halloween, and, just start incrementally getting into the mood. So, these are movies that you just slowly start turning them on, and the more you watch, the closer you get to the witching hour, the haunting hour, the day of days, as it were. And yes, I realize there are a lot more than 10 movies out there. And after you listen to this, I encourage you to give me your list on Twitter or Facebook at Moose Media Inc. And this is also something I will start doing every September, so the list will change from year to year. This is just the 2023 top 10 spooky season recommendations. And let's kick it off with Candyman. Now, everyone knows Candyman. Tony Todd masterclass. But I think for me personally, what makes it interesting is if you grew up in the 90s, there is still a level of fear that the name Candyman strikes into the hearts of fans. Because much like Bloody Mary, when the movie came out, kids rather, would go around and see and test their luck. And for a lot of us, would be too afraid to take that extra step. It's kind of like when the first time you watched Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice. You're disappointed Beetlejuice doesn't show up. You say Bloody Mary 3 times, and you're disappointed that Bloody Mary doesn't show up. You were never really disappointed if you said Candyman and he didn't show up. Because the movie is a great psychological slasher. Just the way he toys with his victims. I mean, he drives them crazy, makes them doubt themselves. And the kills were new and inventive, and just everything was different for the time. And for that's why he starts our list. Now, in stark contrast to, see, I'm not even going to do it because I'm about to hit my limit. The movie named previously is a nice family film, and that's Disney's Hocus Pocus. Now, this movie has been a family tradition to watch around this time of year for as far back as I can remember. You know, we would sit around, you know, parents, kids, all of us, you know, my parents, me as a kid, and now me as parents with the kids, sitting around watching this movie with witches and zombies and trick-or-treating and talking cats and spells and just everything that makes Halloween fun. And it really, just as a kid, and even as an adult, when you're watching your kids watch this movie, really reminds you what Halloween today is about. And it's about kids having fun. And while, yes, this isn't a horror proper, this has horror elements, as I mentioned, the witches, the zombies, etc. And it's a solid entry for kids to start getting normalized into those types of characters. Now, speaking of kids, a movie that I absolutely have to watch every fall. Set in the fall. Clearly set in the fall. And as I mentioned, pertains to kids. The original Stephen King's Children of the Corn. Now, did recently watch the remake. More on that in a later episode. But this movie holds, you know, it holds a special place in my heart. Being from Nebraska, you know, it's a horror movie set in Nebraska that automatically gives it a nice little placeholder. But this, at a time where the killers were men in masks and point of view kills, this was different. These were kids taking over a town because they heard voices. And it's the leader, Malachi, is just eerie. Even if you haven't watched Children of the Corn, typically you know who Malachi is because it is so ingrained in pop culture. So this is definitely a movie that should be added to your yearly watch list just to start ramping you up for the, you know, to get you into that mood. In as much as, like, The Omen and The Exorcist have pretty much just become tentpole movies that get watched around this time of year. But Children of the Corn, you have these kids who go through, murder every adult in town. And as a, you know, watching that as a kid, which I should sidebar for a second, is where a lot of this first year's list comes from. This goes back to, these are all traditions from most of them, not all of them, I should say, go back to traditions from when I was a kid. So, watching Children of the Corn as a younger person, and you have these younglings running the town, that was pretty damn cool. You know, just the concept of it, the idea of kids in control. Now, as somebody with kids, the idea is terrifying, and that in and of itself is a whole different horror movie. But that's all for another time. Let's move on to the next film. It's another kids' film. Disney's Halloween Town. Again, not really horror proper, but it does contain a lot of horror elements, monsters, zombies, etc. And it's a good family film for this time of year. And if you're looking to get your kids interested in the horror genre, it's definitely a good gateway movie. Because what Halloween Town does is it normalizes these characters that movies have made scary. It makes them comical. There's comical skeletons, comical ogres. They're not the scary guys that you're used to seeing. So you're watching that, and even now, like I'll stack it up against any horror movie that I watch today. It still holds up. Yeah, it's campy, it's fun, but it's great for kids. And honestly, isn't that's what Halloween's about, guys? It's for the kids. Now, this next one, I did not watch as a kid. Watched it as a teenager, and it is not for children. Night of the Demons. And the original. I should clarify. Now, what's fun about this is there's 3 camps for people in this movie. You've either watched it and liked it, watched it and hated it, or have never watched it at all. This has become a nice cult classic movie. And go back a bunch of episodes, I had the composer and brother to the director, Dennis Tenney, on. And we talked about Night of the Demons, but this is always a fun one to watch around middle September, early October for me, because you really get into that shift from it makes that like internal shift for me from fall to Halloween's coming, horror time's coming, it's spooky time. And with Night of the Demons, it's a Halloween party. It's demonic possession. It has everything that 80s horror needed. It had horny teens, it had sex, it had drugs, it had music. It has everything that you could ask for. And it's a fun movie. And I strongly think this is one of those films that it's a fun one to pop in and just enjoy some good campy horror. And in that same vein, we move to a Halloween tradition I've had for 27 years. Well, will be 27 years as Halloween. And that's the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Frankenstein the Musical. A Halloween party with mischief and debauchery. What else could you ask for? This is as much as Hocus Pocus and Halloween Town are what Halloween is for kids. Rocky Horror is pretty much what Halloween has become for adults. It's the party. It's getting together. It's having fun with your friends. Maybe not killing the delivery guy and sticking him on ice. Maybe not creating some golden Adonis. But all in all, the thought's still there. It's having a good time, and that's ultimately what this time of year is about. Get together, have a good time, and enjoy yourself. Don't kill Eddie. Let's talk about Dracula. Now, you're probably thinking, great, Dracula. So many Draculas. Nope, specific Dracula. Bela Lugosi as Dracula. Now, this is one that I recommend gets watched. Because as I just alluded to, Dracula is the most popular vampire in cinema history. Yes, tons of vampires. Dracula is the most popular. This one in particular, Bela helped mold what would become the standard for how Dracula is portrayed. And, spoiler, more on that in an upcoming episode as well. And this is another one of those where this is personal for me, because this takes me back to when I was just a little horror fan, and they would play this on the weekends leading up to Halloween, and you'd have this and the other Universal monster movies playing almost nonstop, and be sitting at your grandparents' house, and this is just playing, so you're watching this with Grandma and Grandpa, so there's that for me, which is part of why I watch it. But the part why I recommend it is it shows what you can do to elicit a scare without all the bells and whistles. Yes, the bells and whistles are nice. The jump scares, just big production is nice. But they didn't have that then. Light and shadow play and just, working with what you had, you can still elicit the same response. A good example of that is if you go and watch Werewolf by Night on Disney. They ran that in black and white recently and did the same thing. It can still be done today, if done properly. Now, again, I say, the bells and whistles are nice. I won't take that away from anything. But simplistic scares are fun as well. Up until now, there hasn't been any real specific order. Like, these are the... I said this is my top 10. But we are now into my top 3 picks for the 2023 spooky season recommendations. And these are in order of my third, second, and then first pick. So, coming in at number 3 is Jeepers Creepers. Watch out for those peepers. That's right, folks, Jeepers Creepers. Though the movie claims to be set in spring, anybody who's ever been around Corn knows that movie is clearly set in the fall. Here you have a monster who stalks and hunts his victims, and it's a really good slasher movie. Yes, I know there's issues with the creator, so there's controversy. The movie itself is still good. Controversy aside, we can, as you're watching this movie, you see this well-constructed character just stalk people in this big, almost dump truck-looking vehicle. And then you get this almost a demonic Leatherface without the chainsaw. And, he doesn't care. He's not like other killers. He doesn't have a type. He kills. No age, no nothing. Just, he'll kill. He kills to survive. He kills to kill. And that one, that's why it comes in at number 3. It really pushes that, Halloween's almost here. It's almost time to just let loose and let horror be horror. Coming in at number 2. All work and no play makes Moose a dull boy. Be the Stanley Kubrick's version of the Stephen King classic The Shining. There's not enough time to talk about everything that I could recommend about this movie. However, what I will say is that moving into the realm of horror, this movie is built itself into the minds of a real mental mindbender. From the O'Grady girls who just pop out and, "We want to play with you forever and ever and ever." creepy little shits, despite what my daughter says. And, you know, the elevators of blood, and the scenes that stick out are like the bathroom scene and Jack losing his mind just throughout, watching Jack lose his mind throughout the whole movie. And it's really relevant now because it's kind of how everyone felt during the COVID lockdown. So it puts a whole new spin on things. But it's definitely a movie worth sitting back and watching because it starts as any other movie and turns into a horror movie. And if that doesn't run the September to October spooky season transition, I don't know what does. And now, my number one pick for the 2023 Top 10 Spooky Season recommendation, you guessed it, Friday the 13th, Part 1. That's right. The original Friday the 13th. The movie that spawned a franchise. There was no Jason. I take that back. There was Jason, but he died. It's a simple movie. Counselors are dying. Everyone's dying. You don't know who's doing the killing. Spoiler, it's his mom. I love this movie. The point of view, the POV kills, honestly, are what does it for me. With them trying to hide who the killer is for the entire movie. I said it before, and I'll say it again. They could have done this for about another 2 movies and still kept the Jason reveal. Yeah, the Jason legend alive before revealing to us an actual Jason. I'm not saying I don't like what they did, but I think they could have prolonged revealing Jason to the world. And it could have been a bigger, better reveal. Now, more about the movie. You have Pamela. And please, if you haven't already, go back, listen to any of my Friday the 13th deep dives. I've covered this movie and this franchise extensively. Fan films, a lot. Next month there's another Friday the 13th. Guess what? Going to be another Friday the 13th special, folks. And my favorite part of this movie is Strong Arm Pamela Voorhees. When you see her throughout the movie before she is revealed, she comes off as this sweet, doting mother. And then you find out that she's been this woman who has been hoisting and lifting and just ripping these bodies around this movie. And it's insane. And I can't think of another word for it than insane. But without this movie, there's no Potato Sack Jason. There's no Feldman going ballistic on Jason. There's no Kane Hodder as Jason. As I mentioned, this movie sets off the franchise. And though it's set in the summer, it's a great one to watch in the fall. Great one to watch in spooky season. Because once you watch that one, it kind of drives you down the rabbit hole. Next thing you know, you're going through the rest of the movies. And Horror Hounds, that is my 2023 Top 10 Spooky Season film recommendations. Now, if you are in the Omaha area in October, I will be co-hosting a horror trivia event. Watch my social media pages for details. It will be at the Waiting Room Lounge. And as I mentioned before, there will be a Friday the 13th special in October that will probably be the October episode because it is the spooky season, which means it's my busy season. If I can get you 2 episodes, I will, but there will be an episode on Friday the 13th. You can find me and other great podcasters over at electronicmediacollective.com, or if you're just looking for me and the things that I do, You can follow me on Facebook and Twitter at Moose Media Inc. Just look for the Moose. You know, it's weird. This is normally when I thank the guests for coming on. And thank you for joining me for the past 4 years. October 25th, 2023 is the 4-year anniversary of Moose's Monster Mash, folks. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining me through this journey of horror over the years and continuing to let me do what I love to do. And you will hear from me again on Friday the 13th. And until next time, Horror Hounds, mash on.
This has been Moose's Monster Mash. Come back for more chills and thrills if you dare.